$1.4 billion. We can frighten people, get screwed over. With a lawyer who knows about operating in a courtroom. Absolutely zero. But I think it's also a little scary. I have yet to meet a single lawyer who...
CJ Rosenbaum,
the leading authority in Amazon legal affairs.
Known for his extensive courtroom experience
and dedication to educating brands and sellers through thousands of videos online.
I think it's also the beginning of the end of a lot of medical providers. I call my doctor and it's like, okay, you can come in 3 weeks, right? I'm like, I'll call Amazon. I'll have a guy on a video. Razio bought up tons and tons of Amazon-based brands and businesses, and they're filed for freaking bankruptcy.
That's crazy.
And those are the aggregators who had all the tools at their disposal. So I think Amazon is still a great opportunity for anybody who's willing to work at it, put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. I can't tell you how many get-rich-quick, passive income scams pop up on my feed.
Ugh.
I would add the Lamborghini rule of thumb. If anyone is showing you a picture of their car, I wouldn't believe it. To me, if anyone is starting with pictures of their freaking cars, their watches, and that kind of shit, to me, snake oil, run the other way. If someone is telling you, give me 25 grand for passive income or there's other bullshit, run to the hills, okay? Run to the hills.
You know what, CJ? You make too much sense.
Okay, so here's the story.
Welcome to What the Tech, your gateway to business strategies and tech secrets shaping today's workplace. Let's welcome to the show our repeat guest, CJ Rosenbaum. CJ, good to see you.
Hey, Rolando, first of all, I am only the best in the world because I got the best team in the world, okay? So call out to our incredible team. Amazon sellers are like our bread and butter. You guys built this firm by us helping you and solving problems together. But as many of you obtained exclusive distribution rights to sell brands, we grew in that area as well. So we help you protect your brands from other sellers. Not only do we help Amazon sellers and brands with legal issues, my team is the best in the world with non-legal issues like plans of action for inauthentics or you sold as new or, bullshit. Sorry about my language, Rolando.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Don't filter yourself out because people want to know who the real you is. And for me, when I said in the piece, in full disclosure, we have retained CJ and his firm in the past. And also in full disclosure, I got to say, not only are we happy, and sometimes we don't see eye to eye because I look at things from our business operations. And you have this holistic approach in where, I say, CJ, darn, this so-and-so, this vendor, this supplier, this brand, Amazon, is there any way we can tell them we're not fucking around? And sometimes you say, Rolando, that may not be the right approach today. Maybe we should just try to use honey to get to where we want to go. And that's what I like about you because you know when the right tact is required depending on the situation.
Well, it's sort of like when you're building a house, right? You have a general contractor who watches over the guys the wood guys, the electricians, the plumbers, right? There's a general contractor who knows all. And many times sellers like you or others will call someone who is only focused on one thing and they don't see what's down the road. So my responsibility is to treat the entire business or the entire seller or the entire brand. So like if you want to go full bore against so-and-so, but it's going to fuck you up 10 other ways, my job is to say, hey, Rolando, I agree with you. You're right. They shouldn't be allowed to screw you, but here are the risks you're likely going to face. Plus, there might be some anticipated consequences. So let's look at the problem as a whole business operation to figure out what's best. And listen, sometimes the best thing to do is like fucking nothing.
Yes, you told me that the other day.
That's right.
We walked through a scenario where, we had a legitimate problem in the six figures with a vendor, and we walked through the math, and you're like, I don't know. At the end of the day, you go through all of the math, you may end up with $0 when you try to claw this stuff back.
That's right. So, listen, plenty of times. I'm not saying this was your issue, okay? Because I never reveal anybody's confidences, but I get a call. Ring, ring, ring. I want to sue somebody. I said, that's great. if we win on everything, how much money are you going to get? 50 grand, 100 grand. I'm like, it's not worth it. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the effort. There's no guarantee. So like oftentimes I got to say, nope, I cannot take your money because it doesn't make good business sense.
And that's what I like about you, because that's not the answer I wanted. I wanted you to say, yep, held it. We're going into court. We're going to drag all this stuff in and we're going to sue the pants off of them, because you're not only right, you have the law on your side, but you're going to feel better at the end of the day. But in this case, it's like, you may not feel so good because we may not get as much or nothing, in which case you're back at square one.
So the number one thing, if any of these listeners or viewers are thinking about suing anybody, the number one thing you should do before you file a lawsuit against anybody is to make sure you can get paid if you win. Okay, do an asset search. Tell your lawyer to do an asset search. If he or she doesn't know what that is, get out of their office, okay? Because there's no point in suing somebody in most cases unless you can collect at the end of the day. Okay, there are other scenarios where you want to stop them from doing something or compel them to do something. But generally, if you're suing, it's for money. And if you can't collect because their money's all in China or India or Vietnam, like, what's the point of doing it?
No doubt. And one of the things that I like to do with our folks that are watching this, is because it's all really, at the end of the day, it's all about money. We had a guest on the show that was helping us and our audience learn about Mexico as an environment to go in and grow with the Spanish language. And I want to give her big props. So Adriana Rangel, who was on the show last week, go check out that episode. If you want to learn about the Spanish-speaking market in the U.S., CJ, it's about 30 million Spanish speakers. That's just in the U.S. And then if you want to go across the border into Mexico, know what you're getting into. And Adriana, who lives in the Mexican market, had a lot of interesting things to say about that. And CJ, I want to get your take on something, if we're staying in the Mexico topic, that I found fascinating, because we don't live on islands like back in the 40s. We don't. Those days are long over. So Mexican authorities are trying to level the playing field of sorts in Mexico, and Amazon, it specifically, is going to be facing the possibility of having to reveal their algorithm. This article goes into talking about why the Mexican market's under threat from Amazon. So having heard this, what do you feel is going to happen here? Because again, we don't live in an island. What would be the outcome here if Amazon did end up having to reveal some of their secrets? Or do you think that's even possible?
I don't think Amazon is ever going to reveal their actual algorithm. No way, no how. I think it's like a zero chance of that occurring. Now, if Amazon chooses to reveal something, I don't think it's going to be the full thing for two reasons. One, they don't want to reveal their special sauce. Their algorithms really are their special sauce. Number two, I believe their algorithms are constantly changing. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they're going to reveal jack shit. And if they do, I don't think it's going to be an accurate algorithm, or it won't be accurate for very long. I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay, that's good to know, because again, if they end up being forced or compelled to do so, it'd be interesting to see what they actually reveal. And what Adriana was telling us, that in the Mexican market, unlike in the US, the Mexican market is dominated by two players in the media. Here we have a little bit more choice in terms of media, just because of the sheer size of the US market. And because Amazon Prime is, the Prime Video plays such a huge role in what actors and actresses do in that Mexican market, that's where this whole thing started, which is really an interesting angle. Whereas in the US, it's a little bit different story. And we'll get to the FTC in a moment. But I want to stay on the international front, because there's a lot of folks that listen that are trying to expand into other markets. And like, again, nobody's on an island today, no matter what country you're in. I want to pull you into something that I saw in Amazon Italy that I think also has the potential here to make a difference. In the US market, Amazon normally has a 30-day return policy for products. But in Italy, they just issued an email. So there's no article. It was just an email. And in that email, I'll read it to you. Amazon will shorten the customer return window from 30 to 14 days, starting from the day of delivery of the product. For seller fulfilled items, the return window that you decide to offer must match or exceed Amazon's return and refund policies. What say you about this?
Okay, one, the standard of sellers matching or exceeding, I think is the same all over the world. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can always give your consumers that buy products from you more time to return or whatever it is you want to exceed. Shortening it to 14 days, I would suggest that it might be sort of beta testing for bigger markets, right? Now, Italy is a beautiful country. I don't think the sales in Italy hold a candle to like Germany, the UK,
They don't.
Mexico, US, even Canada, right? Because Italy, in particular, and by the way, I'm headed there for a trade show called Cosmoprof. I land on the 21st. It's a hair care show. Well, I'm not.
Your specialty.
I defend those brands like a son of a bitch. But I think they're going to beta test to see what happens in terms of sales, because the 30-day return is a tremendous problem since consumers get their money back regardless of the issue. So I hope it's beta testing to shorten the return policy in larger markets, particularly right here in the good old US of A. If they shorten that, that'd be really great for sellers.
Not only that, but I think that from the business side of things, they have been tipping their hat for at least the better part of a year that this is going to happen, or other things. They have limited how returns are done, in that they started cracking down on the abuse, right? People just buying a widget and then just, that's nice, I don't like it, sending it back, right? Or using it for a little bit of time and sending it back. And that abuse has started to crack down. Then they started adding you had to pay to ship certain categories back to them. All of this is a cascading event. They're trying to reduce their inventory costs. They're trying to reduce their warehouse footprint. They're trying to find a way to get these returns under control. They're trying to give it away. Now they're rolling this out, trying to maybe shorten the window of returns. And I'm seeing this also industry-wide, where it's not just Amazon. Businesses are waking up to the fact that they have to deal with returns in a way that's cost-effective, and it's out of control.
Well, this is the shit show that Amazon kind of created. Like, when consumers got used to being able to buy anything they want and return it for any reason whatsoever, even after using it, right? Like, go out, you buy a really nice fancy shirt and a tie, you wear it to your event and you send it back, like with the shoes, right? Everyone got used to that, but it has a tremendous cost. So with Amazon, Zappos, it built their market share to where they are, which is tremendous. Now it's like, you know what? It really does cost us too much money. We're not going to lose our market share, or we're going to figure out how much. So I really hope they're just beta testing it, and they then bring that back to the US and Germany and Japan. Hey, you guys want to sell to a big market? Get into Japan. There's also a huge...
What's going on in Japan? Tell me. I've heard this from 2 or 3 other folks.
Yep.
Returns are much lower because their view on returns is different. But tell me why are we missing the boat on Japan?
Well, number one, it's a huge market. I think it's the 4th largest marketplace, right? You got US, UK, Germany, and then Japan. I'm not sure where UK and Germany is. I think the UK might be a little higher, or Germany might be a little higher than the UK. But then Japan, I believe, is number 4. Also, the Japanese market, you don't need as many variations of products. Also, the products there tend to be a little bit smaller, because they have smaller apartments and living spaces and a lot less clutter. And if it's okay, Gary Huang has has an event coming up. It's in Japan. I forget what city. It's probably Tokyo, but I don't remember. To teach Americans how to get into the Japanese market. You don't want to send 100 different variations of a product, but it's a huge market. And I think just the foreign language prevents a lot of sellers from getting in there. The UK is a lot easier to jump into, a lot less cultural issues, even in Germany. But I highly recommend you at least look at Japan.
Oh, awesome. Love that pro tip. That was a serious pro tip. By the way, I think you and another guest, when we did the pro tips, you actually embraced it and did it better, I think, than anybody else. I could get Ori to confirm that or not, if he was the champion of the pro tips when we did that last year. But that is a serious pro tip. Now, talking about the other markets, something that we have to include this in the conversation, CJ, some of the major milestones. And at the end of this milestones, I want you to weigh in because the market is a different place than when you came on 2020, right? And so let me give you a list of things that have changed because I've got questions. I want answers from your mind. All right. Here's some events, and I want you to tell me what you think is going to happen next. Amazon getting rid of incentivized reviews. This was big. This was earth-shattering. You couldn't do anything else when you couldn't pay anybody, which used to happen. They cracked down on Facebook groups that were part of this operation as well. That's pretty much squashed. Inventory minimums. And now you get penalized if you don't have enough inventory. That's huge. That's happening right now as we are taping this. Generic brand listings. You used to not be able to do that. Now you can. And lastly, and I think very important for the future of Amazon, the rise of TikTok Shop as a challenger. What do you predict will happen there?
All right, so let's start at the most recent one first, TikTok Shop. Okay, so I personally love using TikTok to get our messages and information and breaking news out there because it's just so easy to use. You shoot the video on the phone, the sound is great, the quality is great, and it goes right out immediately. The TikTok Shop is brilliant because you just literally touch things you want to buy. So I think it is going to get bigger and bigger, but Amazon has become such a Goliath that I don't think it's really going to cause any problems to Amazon or its sellers. For the sellers, I think you should always try and diversify your revenue stream. So you should always be on, Walmart and, Best Buy, all the different platforms you can sell on. And TikTok is just another one to sort of add to your revenue stream. But I think for the vast majority of the sellers that we work with, the vast majority of your money is going to continue to come from Amazon.
And, one of the things that's really fascinating about how this is playing out, depending on what media you consume, one of the things that's come out is that some of TikTok's competitors are really pushing the envelope to, get them out of the market. It's no secret that Meta has put out, and it's out there, just Google it, really been, waving the megaphone to try to really do something to TikTok. And I don't think it's completely out of reason to think that all these other platforms, including Amazon, Facebook, Google, all view TikTok as a threat. Now, what they've done to try to thwart that is debatable, right? Depending on what you read. But none of these companies are sitting back because all of them, since you and I last talked, there's YouTube Shorts that didn't exist. There's a greater emphasis on snippets and clips and all of this stuff that didn't exist. All of this because TikTok rose from nowhere to being number one and being really the number one searched platform for younger people. That's also a fact. That's affected Google. Google has responded. And what I'm not sure yet, CJ, and I'd love to have your take on it, is how does Amazon respond? I know they're trying to get some influencer thing going. It's not like TikTok. They have an affiliate program. It's not quite like TikTok because TikTok is media first, product second. Amazon's the other way around. Now, Amazon has media, but it's a completely separate division. As it pertains to e-commerce, products first, media second. What do you think?
Okay, so first of all, I started to learn a lot about lobbying about a year and a half ago, when I was retained by a lobbying group that turned out I ended the relationship, okay? And then we started a program right now, it's still in development, where we're creating our own lobbying efforts, like $50 out of every new client goes into a fund for us to use for our lobbying efforts. And if you notice, right, there is so much political activity against TikTok, claiming that it's all about Chinese getting our data. I personally think that is bullshit. Okay.
Well, all the platforms do it, CJ. And to me, the outrage is the outrage.
Yes.
Right.
So,
the outrage is the outrage. Like, one, from Americans that don't maybe understand what other platforms are already doing. Google has everything. You turn on your phone, they have everything. You forget doing anything else. Just turn it on. They have it. right?
That's right. So I think that in addition to like creating competing shorts and that sort of thing, I believe, and I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that our big companies like Facebook, okay, are funding the politicians to come down so harshly on TikTok. I don't think
Yep.
they're doing that solely to protect data because everyone has our data. So I think there's a lobbying effort behind it under this guise of data, but I think that's all bullshit. I think it's the big domestic companies trying to protect their turf by giving the politicians some money. And what's interesting, it's both sides of the aisle.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. And in this case, it's bipartisan, right? It's bipartisan attack on them. I think again, they are not to be TikTok. They are to be reckoned with, and eBay is a totally different animal than TikTok, right? You don't really see the other companies ganging up on eBay. So there's a little bit of some two-faced stuff going on. Speaking of regulation and the regulators, let's jump on something that I think has the potential to also change the game, both for Amazon as well as for sellers. Ori, roll that clip.
Breaking news this hour, the Federal Trade Commission and 17 states are accusing Amazon of anti-competitive behavior.
Yeah, this highly anticipated lawsuit claims the retail giant has an illegal monopoly over online retail.
Now, what do you think is the worst case scenario for Amazon with this FTC lawsuit?
I think the worst case scenario is exactly what's going to happen over the next 10 years or so, but it's long out. I think eventually Amazon's going to get broken up. Amazon is getting more and more monopolistic rather than less. I mean, if you watch the Super Bowl, how many ads did you see for like Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon Clinic, right? So I think Amazon sees the writing on the wall, so it's expanding so that when it's broken up, it's going to still have all these different businesses. But ultimately, those old guys like me, remember Ma Bell, right? Got broken up into the different phone companies. That's it. I mean, the law remains the same over the decades and over the centuries. Eventually, giant corporations who control too much get broken up, and all their subsidiaries will probably rock and roll and make boatloads of money. But that's the writing on the wall. They will eventually, not they, it is an it. It will eventually, I believe, get broken up, but I think it's still a long time away.
Interesting. That from a profitability, if I put my business hat on now and look at how they report stuff out, Amazon's most profitable side is their AWS. So that's really what's keeping the lights on. Their marketplace activity is nowhere near as profitable. So if we look at it from a seller's perspective that's looking at this and saying, is CJ right? What's the reaction going to be if Amazon's broken up? I mean, we're just hypothesizing here. This is just hypothesizing, an exercise. And every unit is a standalone unit paying the bills on its own. And the marketplace is the least profitable of what they have out there. There could be some serious ramifications for sellers if that happens, because now they got to pay their own way rather than using the big pot of money generated by AWS.
Well, I don't think there's going to be a requirement that they can't work together. Okay. I mean, if you boil it down to like basic business, a little easier to grasp, right? So, my law firm has separate entities. We have a separate marketing entity, right? So the law firm in New York and the consulting operation in Florida that protects brands both pay money to one entity to do the marketing efforts, right? So Amazon can still save all those opportunity costs by still working together. However, it will allow other competitors to sort of come in, right? So I do think it'll get broken up. I still think Amazon's going to be a beast in the marketplace around the world for the next, century or so. But I would say it's 2024. I don't think they get to 2030 without getting broken up.
Well, they've become very sticky. You think about what they've put in place. A ginormous warehouse network alone is billions of dollars, hard to do. They've put in an enormous logistics network that now can deliver the package right at your front door with a picture. And now all the other carriers are following suit. FedEx didn't do it. They do that now. UPS didn't do it. They do it now. I'm not sure if the post office is there yet, but everybody's doing it. And now they've gotten into the shipping business in the way of picking up your packages as well to compete against those. So even if they're broken up, CJ, I think from a structural perspective, profitability, I don't know what would happen, but structurally, they are sound to compete against anybody because they're vertically integrated, have an ecosystem like, in some ways, if we were to put on our service hat, like an Apple, there's an ecosystem there. Microsoft, they have an ecosystem there. Google has an ecosystem. Amazon has an ecosystem.
So I agree. Like, for example, could Amazon's logistics be the next FedEx or UPS? Absolutely. And I don't think the local postman has been taking pictures of anything. Okay? These are civil servants with great contracts. They're not going to add anything to their plate. Okay, we're going to keep supporting them no matter how much money the Postal Service loses. Right? But now Amazon could be the next FedEx. Amazon's going to be the next CVS or Walgreens with their pharmacy, only without having to pay for retail outlets and for people, right? The rise of telecare, right? Amazon's in there with both feet, right? So
yes, they are.
I think Amazon's going to compete against like Hospital Corporations of America. So you don't need to go to a hospital. We'll just look at you on a video.
And they're doing that with primary care right now. They have a, I can't remember is it One Care or Care One? I can't remember what they call it, but it's something ridiculously low that you can, if you're a Prime member, you pay like a $5 fee, I believe, something very low in order to get primary care, televisits.
Without waiting. Like, I call my doctor, all right, and it's like, okay, you can come in 3 weeks. Right? I'm like,
no
fuck
good.
you. I'll call Amazon. I'll have a guy on a video. I think it's also the beginning of the end of a lot of particular medical providers, right? Because if I'm speaking to someone remotely, I don't give a shit if they're in New York or they are in India, where a lot of our great doctors are coming from, right? Mm-hmm. So doctors come in from India, they get educated, they get board certified, right? They go back to freaking Delhi or Mumbai, live like royalty, because they're making New York money, but paying, Delhi housing costs.
Yes. And you've been down there, and I love what you did a couple of, maybe it was a year ago, where you were down there and you said, I just hung out and talked to these people as they're coming out of the building and on their smoke break and got a lot of good information on the inner happenings, because Amazon's like a black box, right? And you didn't do anything illegal. You just, hey, what's going on? And what do you see? And blah, blah, just shooting the shit with them.
If any of the viewers go to AmazonSellersLawyer.com, go to our blog and search for inside information, or on YouTube, I think we got like 14 videos. Also, I'm really proud because by traveling to India with a sourcing trip called indiasourcingtrip.net, I met a lot of great people. That's when I went outside their office and got into this inside information. But that also led to the next step, where we now have a team of former Amazonians writing your plans of action. We hired people from Washington State, as well as people in India. Like, if you have a restricted product issue, I've got an inside Amazonian who used to work in restricted products. So
nice.
It's inside information that we're incessantly looking for to get inside the black box. So it started with interviewing their employees. And as of right now, we've hired people away from Amazon who know what to write, because they're basically writing to their own colleagues.
And, the thing, if we're talking about, what at the crux of some of this is that there's conflict that never goes away among Amazon, brands, sellers, and I guess we were talking to regulators, but we'll take the regulators out for a moment. Brands, Amazon themselves, and sellers. I was looking at your TikToks the other day, and I saw that brands, you were giving advice on brands and how to deal with certain things. And one of the most popular videos, CJ, was how should brands deal with bad actors on their listings? And you're giving advice about, hey, if you have listings, pay attention to this, because this is important. And not just pay attention, check it regularly with either a human or an automation type of software. What are you seeing? I mean, why did this resonate so much with a lot of people?
Okay, so first, if you look at the Amazon ecosphere, there's certainly a retraction in the number of sellers because it's become a lot more of a mature business where you need to know your numbers more. You need a bit more money. The cost of your goods sold, the Amazon advertising, all that other stuff has gone up. And it's really not as easy as it was to go to like, Target, buy some shit off the discount rack and sell it on Amazon. You can still do that and learn the platform, but it's more challenging. Brands, when the pandemic hit and all the local retail shops were closed, they had to start paying a lot more attention to Amazon because that's where the products are being sold. So they clamped down a bit more, right? So Amazon simultaneously became a lot more brand centric. So here's what I think both sides of the fence. And listen, we represent about 400 different brands where we control who can sell their products on Amazon. We have a whole separate website, brandprotectionamazon.com. Okay. So this is what you need to know. If there's something about the product or the warranty or the post-sale marketing that when the consumer receives it, the third-party seller cannot deliver basically all the same stuff, then the brand can knock you out of the box.
Get ready for a pro tip.
Boom, pro tip. Okay. If the brand is trying to knock you off the listing or sending you cease and desist communications, look at the warranty. And if there's something in that warranty that you cannot deliver, okay, the brand has you by the short hairs and might be able to knock you off, and it's time to work out a deal.
Okay. And so that's pointer number one. And if you want to get my blood going, this is a topic so close to my heart, my passion, and our conversations, because there are, I would say there's really kind of two types of sellers on there. There's a private label seller, right? And they've got their own goods, brands, private label, i.e. brands, and they're on the platform. And then there's folks that are maybe selling some of those private labels and reselling, and then or selling some of the brands. And a lot of conflict, and you know this, there's a lot of conflict and tension with brands and other sellers, because brands, like you said, want to control the platform. And I think, like what you're saying, there's a right way to do this, and there's a wrong way to do this.
Here comes a pro tip.
All right, pro tip. If you have exclusive distribution rights for a brand or you are a brand, you need to add something to your warranty or your post-sale marketing that a third-party seller cannot deliver, like fixing it at the same factory or returning it, or coupons for the second sale. Because if you add something like that, it gives you the legitimate means to get them off your listing. That's the pro tip for brands.
All right. And so let me break that down a little bit. So if you go to a liquidator who's probably gotten the merchandise from Amazon, who ends up selling this off anyways, the pennies on the dollar, you say, wow, I got all these boxes of this stuff, I'm going to make a killing. You're saying, hold on a second there. If you put those online, you may run into a foul with the warranty that is attached to that product.
Yes, but the warranty cannot simply be money back guarantee, because money is like milk. It's homogenous. Anybody can give you your money back. So you have to do something like Wusthof Cutlery, for example, those fancy German knives. Their warranty says anything goes wrong with the knife, send it back to us. We'll send it back to the factory in Germany. Okay. Your average third-party seller does not have access to that factory. Therefore, they cannot honor the same warranty. It's what's called a material difference in what the consumer receives, and bye-bye.
A big middle finger. So let's role play a little bit, for those sellers, because a lot of brands do not do that. They simply say, look, the warranty says send it back and we will replace it. There's no language that we're going to send it back to our factory in Boston, Massachusetts, or that we're going to send it back to Shenzhen and replace it there and send you. There's no language, because especially from a multinational, they're all about efficiency. Amazon creates inefficiency when we're talking about this issue. That's why we were let off with returns. It's a hot thing for sellers.
Okay, so here's the story. the law doesn't always deal exactly with reality. So I got my headset here. I got it from Global Tech, right?
Mhm.
And the warranty says that if I buy it from Global Tech, since they're an authorized reseller, if I do have a problem, they will send it back to Shenzhen and fix it back to specs or give me a new one at the brand's choice. So the fact that that's an opportunity for the brand is something that a third-party seller cannot deliver. If it solely said we'll replace it, then anybody with inventory can replace it. And there's nothing
Indeed.
the consumer's getting any differently. So that one line in the warranty can make the difference as to whether or not a brand can stop you from selling or whether the brand can maintain or recoup control over its sales. And that's exactly what the first sale doctrine is all about.
This is why our organization has retained you. And I've talked to a lot of attorneys in the 20 plus years that we've been in business, and many of them don't have that intimate knowledge of the law. And then secondly, if you need a pit bull to go into court, which I love looking at your TikTok videos where you're like, I'm at the plane, I'm getting ready to go to Chicago to take down this brand. And then I'm right here in the front of the, where's my phone? I'm at the courtroom. I'm getting ready. And this seller, and it's been 2 years and I have their day in court and we're going to the judge. And then after the judge, I just finished. I'm pumped. We got money back for the sellers and the funds have been, I'm like, holy smokes, this guy is on 100. This is the guy you want if you want to go into a court, somebody that's been in there, that knows the system, that knows judges, how to work the system and how it works. Because that makes a big difference if you have a day in court or go to arbitration.
Like I tell you, one of the things that I love about this area of business is that with a good global perspective, like my decades of experience, really allow me and my team to help Amazon sellers and brands on Amazon really see a bigger picture, right? So those cases, our sellers have had their accounts frozen by a judge, almost always in Chicago, and every asset is frozen, even though the claims are like, 2% of the sales, right? So, before pivoting into Amazon about a decade ago, while I always represented entrepreneurs, the vast majority of my time was spent in courtrooms trying cases. Like I was the guy doing openings and summations and grilling witnesses and manipulating judges and juries. And that's all it's about, right? It's manipulating. I don't fucking lie about it, right? So when you go in and you have this perspective, you say, okay, this is a fight. Either you have to defend yourself if you're getting dragged in, or whether you should or should not assert, right? So by knowing how cases end, it makes it much easier to give advice as to whether or not it should begin and how to get from A to B. And I think that's what is missing in our space, that I have yet to meet, okay, a single lawyer who works in behalf of Amazon sellers who knows shit about operating in a courtroom. Absolutely fucking zero court experience, and so I like being the best in the marketplace. I freaking love it. But I think it's also a little scary when you do have sellers who are contemplating or filing lawsuits, with a lawyer who has never taken verdicts. It's freaking frightening. People get screwed over.
Yes, and I think if anybody is paying attention, let's even just leave Amazon out of the picture. If anybody's been paying attention for the last 4 or 5 years, what it's like to have the right team or person represent you in court, you could see no matter what case you're talking about, when you have the right person, guy, gal, or team in court with you representing your interests, it makes a world of difference. There's tons of cases we could talk about, but you mentioned something to me, or maybe it was on one of your videos where you said I think it was a seller on seller type of deal, and they'd been waiting years for their money. And tell our folks a little bit about what you can about that case.
Okay. First of all, I don't want to be remiss. Like, listen, I am the best in the world because I have the best team in the world, and our litigation practice is managed by a tremendous lawyer named Leslie Gillis. It also has our most experienced paralegal, Kerry McDonald, and a new lawyer who joined our team about a month ago, Jasmine Lewis. And then we have sort of an admin. We call her Ms. G, okay, Genevieve. Great team. So I think the case you're talking about is for a very, very experienced, super successful seller in the refurbished marketplace. And there was another experienced seller in the same marketplace jumping on his listings with subpar or inferior products and just stealing sales left and right by a bait and switch, right? But it was worth a tremendous amount of money. Plus, our client just didn't want to continue to get fucked over by this guy. But the case took roughly 2 years to get to the trial, okay? Depositions, document discovery, motions to the court, oppositions, status conferences, right? And then we go to trial in October. And while it was only a 2-day trial, it really did take close to a week with the prep time. And we try the case and then no decision yet. I mean, we're in freaking March. And I really like the judge we tried the case in front of, but like, hey, man, give us a decision. I know the decision should be in our favor, right? But these are the things that lawyers have to talk to you about before you sue, okay? Because if it's going to take you 2 years just to get to the trial, another week on trial, and then God knows when you're going to get a decision. At the beginning of the day, say, hey, Rolando, Bill, Louise, whoever you are, this is how it really works. Try and resolve it without going to court, because court is not always ideal.
I gotta tell you, I'm not saying that because you're just right in front of me here, but I really love that about you, because sellers at our level run into this type of problem on a regular basis, and it happens way too often. And it's knowing that decision that makes sense for the business should be the right decision. Court, can you wait 2 years? I don't know. I love you, CJ, but that's a lot of time and money that we got to plunk down. And that's what you essentially walked me off the ledge. You're like, look, Rolando, I don't know. That's a lot of money here. How much are we talking about? And then after the end of the day, we do the math. You're like, okay, there may be some other ways that we can get to the same goal without having to go to court. And that's something I want to shift topics a little bit, because one of the things that's becoming clear, like you just said, is how hard Amazon has become. And it's a very similar metric that I've seen as well on the US side. This is an article just talking about 4 Canadian sellers. It is really hard to be successful on Amazon, because let me just read this to you. This is for 2021. Canadian sellers averaged just over $85,000 in sales. And they're saying it's an increase of $13,000. I don't know about you, but I'm sure Canada is not like living in the Congo, where 85,000 makes you a king, right? It's expensive. 85,000 is not even if it was all profit and you kept it all at the end of the day, that's not enough to even live on, let alone in places like New York, Miami, DC, LA. But look at this here. 4,000 Canadian sellers had over 100,000, still not enough, because that's just sales. Doesn't even say anything about profits. 1,000 had over 500,000 in sales. Now, the number that they quote in this article is that in Canada, there's about 40,000 sellers. So if we just do rough math, only 10%, that's the 4,000, get to 100,000 in sales. And a quarter of those 4,000 get to 500,000 in sales.
But Rolando, the numbers, it's crazy, right? So
yes,
take the middle one, 100,000 in sales. Most Amazon sellers are making a 10 to 20% profit margin. Let's take the higher one, right? So they're making a profit of $20,000 after investing 80 with all the risks of inventory, loss, problems, right? So, and no one's living on 20 grand, not here, not in Canada.
That's right.
Right.
And the numbers are about the same. There's a Marketplace Pulse had the US numbers, and they look very similar. There's a couple percentages differences, but the numbers in terms of the number of sellers that are in those buckets, roughly the same.
And look, if you look at the news lately also, anyone see the Thrasio bankruptcy? $3.4 billion bought up tons and tons of Amazon-based brands and businesses, right? And they're filed for freaking bankruptcy. Okay?
That's crazy.
And those are the aggregators who had all the tools at their disposal, all the lower costs by working in the aggregate, right? So it's if I can just change topic 1 second. I
Yeah,
can't
go
tell
for it.
you how many get rich quick, passive income bullshit scams pop up on my feed.
Ugh.
Okay? So I think
Ugh.
Amazon is still a great opportunity for anybody and everybody who's willing to work at it and put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. But if someone is telling you, give me 25 grand for passive income or done for you and there's other bullshit, run to the hills. Okay.
Yes.
Run to the hills. They're making money selling the course. Because
And by the way, CJ, I saw something. You remind me of something I saw last week. It popped up somewhere that maybe it was in one of the groups that I belong to, that these so-called gurus that are saying, they're making 7, 8, 9 figures just sitting in their couch and getting rich, that the FTC and FBI are paying attention to those statements online, because they're out there very, very, very matter of fact. I make 7 figures and it's 1 hour a day, with no proof to back that up, right? I think the sellers that are out there that are not saying that's how much they make and have their videos and podcasts out there are the ones that you should pay attention, rather than those that are saying, I'm making 8 figures a year just watching beautiful ladies on the beach from Cancun. That's just not happening.
I would add the Lamborghini rule of thumb. If anyone is showing you a picture of their fucking car, okay, I wouldn't believe them. Okay, rule of thumb. Now they may be successful. Okay, that may be their thing, but to me, if anyone is starting with pictures of their freaking cars, their watches, and that kind of shit, to me, snake oil, run the other way.
Absolutely. It's a good word of advice. Good word of advice.
Lambo rule of thumb.
I like it. I'm gonna take that one from you because I really like that one. I'm gonna use it again. Now I wanna let our folks that are listening on audio as well as watching us on the video have an opportunity to kind of get a little bit more flavor for you. So what we'd like to do here when we wrap up is have a fast, like a fast segment. So Ori, go ahead and do the rapid fire segment. All right, CJ, whatever hits your brain first is what I want you to say. I'm going to give you a phrase, and then you tell us what's in that brain, all right?
Bring it on, buddy.
Here we go.
On.
Number 1, Walmart versus Amazon.
Huge market, still a relatively small amount of sellers. So dollar for dollar, I think it's a good idea, but their logistics plan is not all there yet. Get on it.
Awesome. Favorite social media platform?
Listen, I love TikTok. TikTok, I think, is the easiest platform to get content out there. So I'm going with TikTok.
Okay. Favorite piece of tech?
Favorite piece of tech? My freaking headsets from you guys, okay? Constantly moving around, phone to desk to computer. My headset from Global Tech.
I'll clap that up all day long. Here's an interesting one. First thing you reach for in the morning?
First thing I reach for in the morning, my beautiful wife, Ellie. Number 1, always good morning. And not like in a lustful, sexual, got to get some. Well, my wife is beautiful and turns me on every day. But the first thing I reach for in the morning is my wife to say good morning.
Awesome. Now, this one doesn't have to be our podcast. It could be any. Your favorite podcast right now? Or do you have one?
I got to tell you something. And it kind of flies in the face of some of the things that I talked about. But I love listening to Jared Glant. He's part of Cardone's sales, teaching, marketing. But Jared Glant is at the very, very top of my list in terms of keeping me fired up and inspired, in terms of what I listen to get my juices flowing. Jared Glant, Cardone Industries.
Awesome. Last one, a person you admire.
Wow. I'm going to go with my dad. I know it's a little cliche. My father recently passed away, and my father was no killer in the business world, but always a calm, friendly, happy demeanor. I am not that. I'm more like my mother, who's a little bit more aggro. But I got to tell you something. Losing my dad, and believe me, my father's passing was a blessing because his condition was just getting that bad. But he's certainly an idol of mine in terms of reeling it in, recognizing your blessings, and trying to stay even keeled, which really is not my nature.
Well, hey, my condolences on your father's passing. I know that's tough when you lose a family member, and at least he's in a better place now.
It was listen, no doctors, no hospitals, no bed sores, right?
Mm-hmm.
He went in his own bed on his own calendar. And this is kind of a weird thing, but my parents recently purchased a new Tempur-Pedic bed, which is like $3 or $4 grand, right? Which to them was like a tremendous amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And my father died on the side of the bed. So my mother, who's a little bit unique, feels that my dad just didn't want to mess up the bed.
That's a good sense of humor, I got to tell you.
There we go. That's why I'm like my mother.
Well, CJ, now if people want to get a hold of you and they say, you know what, CJ, you make too much sense. I don't have a lawyer in my corner like you. What do I do?
All right. The best way to get me is to go to AmazonSellersLawyer.com, click the case submission button, and submit whatever issue you're facing. Number one way. And either me or a member of my team will get back to you. It's available 24/7. Okay. And we have more information for sellers than any other website on earth, including Amazon. If you own a brand or you have exclusive distribution rights to a brand, then check out brandprotectionamazon.com to find information about what you need to do to make sure you control all the sales. Okay. So either you're a seller, you go on ASL.com, or you have the exclusive distribution rights and you're a brand, then go to brandprotectionamazon.com.
Wonderful. Oh man, you and like I said, when disclosure, we've retained CJ in the past. I have zero complaints. He's done a phenomenal job being a pit bull when he needs to be, and his team, and doing all that other stuff that just aggravates me. And then, like you said, apply the honey when it's the right time to use that. So I really love that holistic approach that you bring to the table. You know what? You've been listening to this and you're probably wondering, well, what else is happening on Amazon? And actually, there's a lot of things happening with AI that affect every single seller. And if you want to find out what it is that AI is going to do to Amazon, you'll want to check out that episode that I had with Kevin King, where we dove into that and we revealed exactly what's going on with AI. So go ahead and check that episode with Kevin King, myself, and Dave. And Dave, and Kevin will join you in that episode.